What if just 1 hour a day could completely change your life? Not a year, not a decade, just 60 minutes, repeated with purpose. Sounds impossible, doesn't it? But maybe that's because we've been taught to believe that transformation requires dramatic, overwhelming change. So we wait. We wait for the perfect moment, for more time, for the fear to disappear. And while we wait, life moves on. Opportunities pass, confidence fades. And deep down, something inside us whispers, I was meant for more than this. You've felt it. That quiet ache that shows up when you scroll through your phone for hours and realize you've done nothing meaningful all day. The guilt that lingers when another week goes by and your goals remain untouched. The exhaustion of waking up tired, not just physically but emotionally, because you know you're capable of more but can't seem to break the cycle. It's not laziness, it's not lack of talent, it's that you've been stuck in survival mode trying to keep up instead of rise up. Here's the truth, most people aren't lazy, they're lost. Drowning in distractions, pulled in every direction except the one that leads forward. And yet, right now, within your grasp, is a simple path out. 1 hour, one powerful, focused hour. That's all it takes to begin rewriting the story. Not someday, today. Because change doesn't begin with motivation, it begins with action. And small, consistent actions have a way of creating momentum that becomes unstoppable. You don't need to overhaul your entire life. You don't need to quit your job or move to a different city. You just need to claim 1 hour, an hour that belongs to you, to your growth, to your goals, to the version of yourself you've been putting off for too long. That 1 hour can be the difference between drifting and driving, between reacting and creating, between staying the same and becoming something more. And if you stay with this message, if you give yourself the next few minutes, you'll learn how that 1 hour can unlock strength, discipline, clarity, and purpose. You'll see why it's not about time, but about intention. You'll understand how ordinary people become extraordinary, not through luck, but through one simple decision repeated daily. Most importantly, you'll realize that you already have everything you need to begin. No one is coming to give you permission. The door is already open. All you have to do is step through. So don't turn away, don't scroll past this, because this might be the message that finally sticks, the one that lights the fire, the one that reminds you, you are not stuck, you are not broken, you are not too late, you are 1 hour away from momentum, 1 hour away from belief, 1 hour away from change. And the choice is yours, right now. Let's begin. You've heard the voice inside you, the one that says you're meant for more. But for too long, you've silenced it, buried it beneath distractions, doubts, and deadlines. That voice doesn't speak in screams, it whispers. It shows up in the quiet moments, when your mind drifts, when the noise fades, when you feel the weight of time slipping through your fingers. And no matter how far you push it down, it always returns. Because it's the truth, and the truth doesn't go away, it waits. There's a cost to ignoring that voice. Every time you choose comfort over growth, it gets harder to believe in yourself. Every time you tell yourself tomorrow, your future grows more uncertain. And if you're not careful, your mind will convince you that you missed your chance, that it's too late. But here's what most people forget. Regret doesn't show up all at once. It arrives slowly. A subtle feeling that your life is passing but you're not really living it. And then, one day, it hits you. Not because something tragic happened, but because nothing did. No risks, no leaps, no real change, just routines and empty promises. This is where many give up. They start to believe that life just is what it is, that maybe they weren't meant to break through. But that's a lie, and deep down you know it, because despite everything, there's still a flicker of belief inside you, a part of you that refuses to settle, a part that knows you're not finished yet. That spark, that's your power. And 1 hour a day is how you bring it to life, not someday, not when the timing is right. Now, right now, because 1 hour, used with purpose, can awaken parts of you that have been asleep for years. It can break the cycle. It can rewire your thinking, reshape your habits, and rebuild your confidence. It gives you proof, not in theory, but in action, that you're still in control, that you still have a say, that you can move from wishing to doing, from hoping to building. The change isn't instant, and it's not supposed to be, but it is real, and it is powerful. Each hour you commit is a vote for the person you're becoming, a quiet rebellion against every excuse you've made, a step away from fear and toward purpose. It doesn't matter where you start, it matters that you do, because your life doesn't change in a year. It changes in a moment, a decision, a choice to stop waiting and start creating. That 1 hour a day is the difference between who you are and who you could be. And the longer you wait, the louder the regret becomes. But if you begin, truly begin, you'll silence the noise. You'll feel it. That first spark of momentum. And from there, everything changes. Not all at once, But hour by hour, step by step, you'll become undeniable. And the life you thought was out of reach will become the one you're living. Change doesn't ask for perfection, it asks for presence. It asks for one honest hour where you stop running, stop pretending, and start showing up for yourself. Not for applause, not for validation, but because something inside you knows you're not living at full capacity. You feel it when your potential collides with your procrastination. That silent frustration of knowing exactly what you want, but not doing what it takes to get there. It's not a lack of ambition. It's the fear that maybe effort won't be enough. But that fear only grows stronger when you do nothing. And every day you delay, the mountain feels taller. The dream feels further. The belief fades. That's how potential dies. Not in fire, but in silence. But 1 hour a day is your answer to that silence. It breaks the spell. It doesn't ask for giant leaps. It asks for one step. One clear, focused act that tells your future, I'm coming for you. 1 hour can be the crack in the wall, the beginning of something real. When you show up consistently, even when it's hard, something begins to shift. Not just in your results, but in your identity. You start seeing yourself differently. Not as someone who hopes for change, but as someone who creates it. This is the power most people never unlock. Because they're too focused on the outcome, too obsessed with how long it will take. But the outcome isn't what transforms you. It's the process. It's the discipline. It's the realization that you can trust yourself again. That your word means something. That when you say you'll show up, you do. That kind of self-trust is rare and powerful. And it all begins with what you do in that 1 hour. Because that hour becomes sacred. A time when the world fades and your purpose sharpens. No noise. No distraction. Just you and the work. That work may look different for each person, but the principle remains. You are feeding your future, investing in the only thing you truly own, your effort. And effort, when given consistently, builds results that motivation alone never could. Effort is what keeps you going when the novelty wears off. Effort is what turns habits into identity. You don't need to know everything right now. You don't need to have the perfect plan. You just need to begin. And if you're willing to do that, if you're willing to commit to 1 hour a day with complete presence, you'll separate yourself from the crowd. Not because you're louder, faster, or better, but because you chose to do what most won't. You chose to begin. You chose to believe. And that belief, fueled by action, will carry you further than you can imagine. You don't rise by accident. You rise by alignment. By choosing every single day to make time for what matters. And if you keep showing up for that hour, you'll discover something incredible. The life you're chasing is already within reach. All it needed was your consistency. When you begin to show up for 1 hour a day, you start to see something the world rarely talks about. Your power to choose who you become. Most people think change happens to them. They wait for circumstances to shift, for luck to strike, for someone to hand them a reason to believe. But real change doesn't arrive with a loud knock. It starts quietly. In that 1 hour you carve out, where you stop reacting and start designing. That's when everything begins to realign. That's when the excuses lose their grip, and the reasons get louder than the resistance. It's not about willpower. It's not about forcing yourself through pain. It's about making a decision so real, so honest, that there's no turning back. When you own that hour, you send a message to your mind, this matters. I matter. And when your mind starts to believe that, you begin to take yourself seriously. That's what most people are missing. Not time, not talent, but the belief that they are worth showing up for. You are. You always were. And this hour is how you prove it, not to others, but to yourself. Because this isn't about performance. It's about alignment. It's about doing the work your soul has been begging you to do. The kind of work that builds peace, not pressure. Growth, not noise. The kind of work that transforms you from the inside out. It doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's hard. But it's always worth it. Because over time, that 1 hour rewires how you see the world. It rewires how you see yourself. You stop living in reaction. You stop hiding behind distractions. You start acting with purpose. You become intentional. And intentionality is the birthplace of transformation. Every time you choose to honor that hour, you take back a piece of yourself. You remember that you're not here just to exist. You're here to evolve, to push your limits, to create a life that reflects who you truly are, not who the world told you to be. That 1 hour becomes a promise, not to be perfect, but to never give up, to keep showing up, especially when it's hard. Because you know what's on the other side isn't just success, it's freedom. Freedom from self-doubt, freedom from regret, freedom from living small when you were made to rise. And as the days pass, something begins to click. You no longer need to be convinced. You feel it. In your body, in your habits, in your thoughts. You are changing. And not because of anything external, but because of what you're doing when no one's watching. Because of the decision you made to stop waiting for a better life and start building it 1 hour at a time. This is your invitation. not to hustle endlessly, but to become who you are meant to be. 1 hour a day, fully present, fully committed, fully alive. There's a shift that happens when you stop negotiating with your growth, when the 1 hour is no longer a question but a standard. You don't wait for the mood to be right or the day to be perfect. You show up because your future depends on it. That hour becomes sacred, not because of what it gives you, but because of who you become inside it. The resistance may still whisper, but your commitment speaks louder. And in that decision, day after day, you begin to reclaim your life. Most people underestimate the power of consistency. They chase intensity, big moves, sudden breakthroughs. But what builds transformation is repetition. The small, repeated acts of courage. The choice to stay in the discomfort of growth instead of the comfort of distraction. Every time you push through the voice that says not today, you rewrite what you believe about yourself. You stop being the person who starts and stops. You stop being the person who waits for inspiration. You become the one who creates it. From the ground up. From within. Your identity is not set in stone. It's sculpted by action. Every hour you invest in your evolution becomes part of your foundation. It changes your posture, your tone, your presence. You no longer need to prove anything. You're building evidence every day. And that evidence becomes power because it's real, it's earned. And the more you show up, the less you need motivation. You don't need to feel ready. You've trained yourself to begin. That's what separates the driven from the drifting. The ones who rise don't wait to be pulled. They pull themselves forward. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to keep going. Momentum builds in silence, in the moments where no one sees but everything shifts, where your discipline is stronger than your doubt, where you begin to feel proud, not for where you are, but for who you're becoming. That quiet pride is powerful. It's not loud, it's not showy. It's rooted, it's stable, and it grows with every single hour you give to yourself. There will be days when the world feels heavy, when your mind tells you to take the easy way out. But that's the exact moment your character is shaped. That's the point where most people stop, and where you keep going. Not because it's easy, but because you made a promise. And every time you keep that promise, your future gets stronger, your purpose gets clearer, your belief gets louder. This is how real change happens. Not through sudden dramatic moments, but through quiet decisions repeated daily. You don't need more time. You need more intention. 1 hour a day is more than enough if you give it everything. Let the world rush. Let others wait. You've chosen to rise. You've chosen to honor the power you hold. And now, nothing can stop the person you're becoming. You're not here to repeat yesterday. You're not here to blend into the noise. You are here to build something real. Something that reflects your potential, not your past. That's why 1 hour matters, because it gives you the space to rise above everything that tries to keep you small. It's not just about doing more. It's about becoming more focused, more deliberate, more in control of who you are and where you're going. This isn't a trend or a phase. This is a commitment to becoming unshakable, to choosing growth again and again, no matter what the world throws at you. You can't keep waiting for the fear to disappear. It won't. Fear doesn't leave. It watches. It waits. And the moment you hesitate, it tightens its grip. But when you move, when you take action in spite of it, fear loses its power. Courage isn't loud. It's quiet. It's showing up anyway. It's setting the alarm. It's putting your phone away. It's doing the thing you said you would do, especially when no one is watching, because that's when it counts the most. That's when the real transformation happens. Not when it's easy, but when it's necessary. Every time you choose that hour, you're casting a vote, not for comfort, but for character. Not for the life you've settled into, but for the life you deserve. That vote compounds. Over days, over weeks, it becomes who you are. And without even realizing it, you begin to expect more from yourself. Not in a way that burns you out, but in a way that pulls you up. You start to crave discipline, not because it's restrictive, but because it feels like freedom. You stop chasing shortcuts. You start valuing the climb. Because you know that the view from the top only matters if you earned it. There's a clarity that comes with consistency. The noise in your mind begins to quiet. The fog starts to lift. You stop second-guessing everything. You start trusting yourself. And when you trust yourself, you stop needing permission. You stop looking for validation. You stop waiting to be chosen. You choose yourself, over and over again. With every hour, with every effort, you're telling the world, I'm not here to exist. I'm here to evolve. No one else can do this for you. And that's the beauty of it. This journey is yours, not handed to you, not borrowed, yours. You get to define it, shape it, build it. And it all begins with 1 hour. A single hour where your excuses are silenced and your priorities rise to the surface. A single hour where you remember what it feels like to fight for something that matters. That fight doesn't start tomorrow. It doesn't need more planning. It starts now, with a choice, with action, with you fully present, fully committed, and no longer willing to live beneath your potential. The moment you choose discipline over distraction, you take back control. You stop being pulled by every little urge, every fleeting impulse, and you start living with direction. That 1 hour becomes the anchor in a world that constantly tries to shake your focus. It's not about being rigid, it's about being rooted in your values, rooted in your goals, rooted in the quiet understanding that you are not here to waste time chasing what doesn't feed your soul. You're here to build, to grow, to evolve into the version of yourself that once felt out of reach. Most people never feel fulfilled because they spend their lives reacting instead of creating. They live on autopilot, hoping that someday the right moment will just appear. But the truth is, the right moment is created by the right habits. And those habits are born in that hour you dedicate to becoming better. Not better than someone else, just better than you were yesterday. That's how greatness starts, not with a leap, but with a choice. A quiet, repeated choice to keep showing up even when progress feels slow. Even when no one claps, even when doubt is loud. Growth is rarely glamorous. It's messy. It's uncomfortable. It's the daily wrestle between who you are and who you're becoming. And that battle is won in the hour no one else sees. That's where resilience is forged. That's where your strength is built, not in the spotlight, but in solitude. In that space where your intention meets your effort, and your excuses meet their end. There's no magic in waiting. The magic is in the work. The real work. The kind that requires patience and honesty and the courage to keep going when the novelty wears off. And slowly something shifts. You begin to notice how much noise you used to tolerate, how many things you allowed to steal your energy. But now you protect that hour. You defend it like it matters, because it does. That hour is your proof. Your reminder that even in a world full of distractions, you have the power to choose differently, to lead yourself, to become someone you respect when no one's watching. Because self-respect is not given, it's earned, in the grind, in the repetition, in the choice to stay committed to something bigger than your mood. This is your hour. Not for anyone else, not to meet expectations or follow trends, but to become aligned with what matters most, with your growth, your vision, your truth. That hour doesn't demand perfection, it demands presence. Show up fully. Give it everything. Because every time you do, you're not just doing the work, you're becoming the kind of person who does the work. That's the goal, that's the reward, and that's how you start to live a life that reflects who you really are. One intentional hour at a time. Relentless, focused, free. You don't rise by accident, you rise by intention. You rise by claiming your time, by stepping into that hour with the mindset that this is not optional, this is necessary. Necessary for your growth, necessary for your peace, necessary for your life to align with who you truly are inside. The outside world can't give you that. Validation can't give you that. Only you can. And you do it by deciding that 1 hour of truth is worth more than 24 hours of noise. In that hour you stop performing and start transforming. You turn down the volume of doubt and tune into the quiet certainty that you are capable of more. Nothing changes until you do. You can dream about it. You can talk about it. But if you want to become it, you need to move. And movement begins with a single act of self-respect. Showing up when it's inconvenient. Showing up when it's boring. Showing up when it's uncomfortable. That's how momentum is born. Not from perfection, but from repetition. Every time you follow through, you teach your brain that your word means something. And that builds trust in yourself. That trust becomes fuel. It pushes you through days when motivation disappears. It pulls you through moments when quitting feels easier. You are not weak because you struggle. You are strong because you continue. You continue when it's heavy. You continue when the path isn't clear. You continue because you made a decision that your future is worth more than your comfort. And that decision becomes your advantage. Most people won't make it. They'll make excuses. They'll blame the timing, the circumstances, the fatigue. But you've seen too much of what's possible when you refuse to give up. You know that 1 hour isn't just a routine. It's a lifeline. It's your space to realign, to breathe, to rise above the chaos, and remember who you are. The world will keep pulling you in every direction. Urgency will scream. Distractions will multiply. But in that hour, you get to be still. You get to be deliberate. You get to choose what matters. And when you do that often enough, something incredible happens. You become the kind of person who leads their life instead of surviving it. You stop being pushed around by stress and start building a center within yourself that can't be shaken. Not by opinions, not by setbacks, not by fear. Because that hour teaches you how to stay grounded, even in the storm. This isn't about adding more to your plate. It's about clearing the space to focus on what actually matters. You already have the time. What you need is the decision the commitment to yourself, the refusal to waste another day waiting to feel ready. You're not here to hope for change, you're here to make it, every single day, one focused, intentional, courageous hour at a time. Keep showing up, keep choosing yourself, because your next level is waiting, and it starts now. You've already proven you can survive. Now it's time to show yourself you can thrive. Thriving doesn't begin with a perfect plan or a flawless routine. It begins with a choice to stop settling, to stop accepting the version of life that keeps you numb, scattered, or stuck. Thriving begins with that 1 hour a day where you say, I'm not waiting anymore. That hour becomes your declaration, a quiet rebellion against the voice that says, you'll always be like this. Because the truth is, you won't. Not if you claim your time. Not if you take that hour and pour your whole self into it like your future depends on it, because it does. You don't need more information. You need more execution. You need to act before you feel ready, because readiness is a lie. You become ready by doing. You build confidence by keeping promises to yourself. And when you keep that one simple promise, just one focused hour, you start to feel something shift. A sense of pride, a glimpse of clarity, a flicker of belief. You start to feel like someone who is finally in motion, someone who no longer just wants change but is change. That energy compounds. 1 hour becomes identity. Identity becomes momentum. And momentum is everything. This hour isn't about hustle for the sake of busyness. It's not about chasing perfection or doing more than you can handle. It's about choosing the right effort, the kind of effort that brings you back to yourself, the kind that clears the mental clutter and reminds you why you started. This hour is where you realign, where you stop reacting to the world and start creating the world you want to live in, the world that reflects your values, your goals, your fire. Not the one that was handed to you, but the one you are brave enough to build. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not too late. You are powerful beyond measure. And that power lives inside your decision to take this hour and make it count. It lives in the moment you turn distraction into discipline, in the second you stop scrolling and start building, in the breath you take before diving into the thing that scares you, because you know it matters. This isn't about force. It's about alignment. When your actions align with your vision, you become unstoppable. Not because everything is perfect, but because you stop giving power to your limitations. You already know what's calling you. You already feel what needs to change. The only question left is, will you honor it? Will you create the space for it? 1 hour. That's all it takes to begin. No more waiting for the right season. No more delaying your potential. You've waited long enough. It's time. Time to build. Time to focus. Time to rise. You don't need more hours in a day. You need one that you own completely. One that belongs to the future you're brave enough to create. Progress doesn't scream. It whispers. It shows up in the quiet hours when no one is watching. In the steady rhythm of effort that feels small in the moment, but becomes undeniable over time. That's the power of 1 hour. It's not about instant results. It's about inner alignment. It's about reminding yourself that you are the kind of person who follows through. That kind of identity rewires everything. When you prove to yourself day after day that your choices reflect your vision, you begin to shift the way you see yourself. No longer hoping for discipline. No longer wishing for confidence. You begin living it, breathing it, becoming it. The mind resists change not because it's impossible, but because it's unfamiliar. But that discomfort you feel when you push beyond your old limits, that's growth. That resistance is your invitation. Most people turn back when they feel it. They mistake discomfort for danger. But you know better. You've felt it before. That tightness in your chest, the voice in your head telling you it's too hard, too late, too much. That voice isn't your truth. It's your threshold. Push past it. 1 hour a day of doing the work anyway, despite the voice, despite the fear, and you begin to silence the lies you've believed for too long. Change doesn't ask for perfection. It asks for presence, full presence, focused effort. That 1 hour is not about checking a box. It's about transforming your relationship with yourself. Because when you start showing up not because you have to, but because you want to, everything else shifts. Your mood, your mindset, your momentum. You stop waiting for motivation to find you. You create it. You stop depending on circumstances to feel strong. You build strength through your decisions. You stop fearing failure because you know every repetition is building something deeper than success. It's building character. When you dedicate just 1 sacred hour to your growth, your life begins to reflect that choice in ways you didn't expect. You start walking taller, thinking clearer, acting bolder. You're no longer weighed down by the guilt of neglecting what matters. You carry the quiet confidence of someone who knows they are doing the work. Not flashy work, not loud work, but real work. The kind that changes you from the inside out. And as you become more, you begin to attract more, not by force, but but by resonance. Life responds to your energy, and your energy is shaped by your habits. This is how you change everything, not with a grand gesture, but with a daily decision. 1 hour of undivided attention to your evolution. You don't need to figure out every detail of the future. You just need to own this hour. That's where the shift happens. That's where belief is built. That's where you stop merely existing and start living on purpose. You have the power, you have the time, you have the truth. All that's left is to act like it. There is a version of you that already exists within, waiting to be brought to life. A version that is focused, unshakable, deeply aligned with a greater purpose. That version doesn't arrive by accident. It's built in the choices you make when no one's watching. It's shaped by what you do when it's hard, when it's inconvenient, when you feel like giving less, but choose to give more. That is the foundation of greatness, not talent, not luck, but discipline carved through consistency. When you take 1 hour and pour yourself into it completely, you're not just doing a task, you're declaring your worth to yourself. You're saying, I matter enough to show up. I matter enough to grow. So many people wait for a sign, a breakthrough, some magical moment where everything becomes clear. But the truth is, clarity doesn't precede action, it follows it. You act first, and in the doing, the answers start to emerge. You won't think your way into a new life. You'll act your way into it. The difference between those who transform and those who remain stuck is simple. One group waits, the other begins. You don't have to know the final destination. You only have to trust the direction. And when you honor that 1 hour, again and again, you build a path with every step you take. There will be resistance. There will be days when excuses feel louder than purpose. But excuses are lies dressed as logic. They promise comfort but steal progress. And the only way to dismantle them is by refusing to negotiate with your limitations. You can't reason with old patterns and expect new outcomes. You rise by drawing a line in the sand and saying, this is who I am now, not someday, not when it's easy. Now, that single hour becomes your daily line, a non-negotiable agreement between you and your future self. One that says, I won't let this day pass without progress. And what begins as effort soon becomes identity. When you consistently show up, your mind adapts. It begins to believe you are someone who takes action, someone who follows through. That belief is power. Because how you see yourself determines how you behave, and how you behave shapes your life. Confidence grows not from ease, but from evidence. And every single hour you dedicate becomes living proof that you are changing, that you are committed, that you are stepping into the life that once felt out of reach and making it your reality. This isn't about doing everything. It's about doing what matters. 1 hour of full presence day after day rewires your mind and redefines your future. You don't need more time. You need more intention. And that intention begins the moment you stop waiting to feel ready and start choosing to be relentless. The clock is ticking, but not against you. It's waiting for you to claim what's already yours. 1 hour at a time, one choice at a time, one breakthrough at a time. Keep going. It's easy to underestimate the power of 1 hour. It seems small. It seems forgettable. But the truth is, most people don't lose their potential in a single catastrophic failure. They lose it minute by minute, hour by hour, to distraction, hesitation, and doubt. And while the world keeps offering reasons to delay, the ones who rise are those who reclaim their time. Not all of it, just one piece. 1 hour that belongs to them and no one else. That hour becomes a sanctuary, a sacred promise, a line of defense against the noise. And once that hour is claimed with purpose, it begins to multiply its effect. Slowly, quietly, relentlessly. You don't need to be extraordinary to begin. You become extraordinary because you begin. The people you admire, the lives that seem unstoppable, the ones who speak and move with power, they weren't born with something you lack. They made decisions that you can make too. They fought through the same resistance. They sat with the same doubts. And they built something stronger. They built commitment. That's what 1 hour a day gives you. A place to build commitment brick by brick, until you look back and realize you've created a life rooted in intention instead of regret. Your brain is always listening. Every time you skip that hour, it takes note. Every time you keep the promise, it takes note. Over time, that pattern becomes your identity. Are you someone who follows through even when it's hard? Or someone who gives in to the old stories? You get to choose which version you feed, and each hour is a chance to feed the version that's bold, clear, and unshakable. The more you act from that place, the more you reinforce that truth. You stop chasing self-belief and start living as someone who already has it. Momentum is not born from motivation, it's born from movement. Tiny intentional movement that compounds over time. That hour doesn't just give you progress, it gives you power. The kind of power that quiets fear, that silences self-doubt, that reminds you who you are before the world told you to shrink. And when you claim that space every day, you begin to radiate with the energy of someone who refuses to settle. Not because you're already where you want to be, but because you finally know you're headed there. You are not waiting for the right moment. You are the right moment. The moment your feet hit the floor and you choose discipline. The moment you silence the noise and focus. The moment you stop breaking promises to yourself. That's when change begins, not as an idea, but as a force. And that force, built 1 hour at a time, becomes unstoppable. You may not see the change at first, but stay with it, stay consistent, stay grounded, because the life you dream of isn't somewhere far away. It's built here, now, with what you do today, with how you spend this hour. This is your turning point. Act like it. There is a quiet power that comes from doing what most won't. It doesn't shout. It doesn't beg for attention. It simply builds, hour after hour, in silence. And eventually that silence turns into something loud. Results. You start to feel the shift. Not in the world around you, but in the way you carry yourself. You speak differently. You move with purpose. You make decisions with clarity. Because when you give yourself fully to even 1 hour of intentional effort, you no longer feel like a victim of time. You feel like the owner of it. That shift in mindset is everything. Ownership means you stop waiting to be rescued. You stop searching for shortcuts. You stop blaming circumstances. You realize the hour was always there. It just needed you to show up. You won't always feel like it. You'll be tired, distracted, overwhelmed. But discipline doesn't wait for convenience. It thrives in resistance. Every time you push through even a little, you teach your mind that excuses don't run your life anymore. That is the deepest kind of self-respect. To act on behalf of your future, even when the present doesn't feel like cooperating. 1 hour of alignment when it's hardest is worth 10 when it's easy. Because that's when you prove to yourself who you really are. Not who you pretend to be. Not who you plan to be. But who you decide to be now. Most people live their lives stuck in loops. Wake up, repeat, sleep, repeat. Days blur, dreams fade. Hope becomes a whisper. But the moment you devote time with intention, you break that loop. You create a fracture in the autopilot. That's where transformation begins. Not by changing everything overnight, but by choosing to change something now. That 1 hour becomes your daily rebellion against mediocrity. It becomes the place you go to become who you were meant to be. Not to impress anyone, not to prove anything, but to honor the life inside you that refuses to be wasted. This hour doesn't need to be perfect. It needs to be yours. Whether you spend it building a skill, facing your fears, healing, growing, or simply being still with purpose, it all counts. The only thing that doesn't count is letting it slip away while you wait for the right mood, because mood is fleeting. But progress, even small, leaves a mark, and that mark compounds. It builds grit, it builds trust in yourself. It builds a foundation that nothing external can take away. This is not about being the best, it's about being consistent, being honest, being relentless in the face of your own resistance. That 1 hour is your edge. It's the difference between a life you watch from the outside and a life you live fully from within. Show up for it, even when it's inconvenient, especially then, because how you use that hour will echo through every part of your life. This is your proof that you're not done, not broken, not powerless. Just 1 hour, owned completely, can change everything. You don't need a new year, a Monday, or a second chance to start. All you need is 1 hour, and the willingness to begin before you feel ready. Most people wait their whole lives for the perfect moment, not realizing that perfection is a trap. Waiting keeps them in a cycle of delay while their dreams quietly erode under the weight of hesitation. But you are not most people. You're here because something inside you is done waiting. You feel it, the tension between who you are and who you could be. That pressure isn't a burden. It's a signal, a calling, a reminder that your life is not meant to be lived in fragments, but in full alignment with who you know you're capable of becoming. The truth is, transformation begins the second you take responsibility for it. Not someday, not later. Now, when you say yes to 1 hour, you are not just making time, you're taking it back, from distractions, from fear, from everything that told you it's too late or too hard. That hour becomes a declaration: I matter, my life matters, my growth is non-negotiable. And from that declaration, something inside you changes. You begin to trust yourself. You begin to respect your effort, not just your outcomes. You begin to believe in your ability to shift the direction of your life, not by force, but by choice. Every day you have a decision. You can continue running in circles, repeating the same habits and expecting different results. Or you can interrupt the cycle. You can use 1 hour to disrupt the pattern, to question the narrative, to replace chaos with clarity, anxiety with action. Because the pain of staying stuck will always be greater than the discomfort of moving forward. And deep down, you already know that. That's why this message speaks to something in you that won't stay silent anymore. Consistency is the greatest form of self-love. It's not flashy. It's not always exciting, but it's where freedom is found. The more often you choose discipline over comfort, the stronger you become, not just physically or mentally, but spiritually. You begin to see progress not as a finish line, but as a lifestyle, a state of being. And that changes everything. You're no longer desperate for validation because your effort speaks louder than any applause ever could. This 1 hour is your reminder that you are not lost, you are not behind, you are not broken. You are waking up, you are rising. You are remembering that everything you want begins with what you do today. Not tomorrow, not when it feels easy. Today. And every time you show up for that hour, you reinforce the truth that you are in control. You are not a prisoner of your past or your fear. You are the architect of your future. And brick by brick, hour by hour, you are building something unshakable. Keep going. You're closer than you think. Progress isn't loud in the beginning. It's invisible. It's quiet. It happens in the background, while the rest of the world is still asleep to your change. But you feel it. A subtle shift in how you think, a deeper breath, a decision made with clarity. And in that small shift, something powerful is born. Momentum. The kind that builds not from perfection, but from presence. Showing up for that 1 hour each day is more than a task. It's a contract with yourself. A promise that your time here won't be wasted. That you refuse to let potential die in comfort. That you are willing to sweat, to stretch, to grow. Even when no one is watching. Especially when no one is watching. Because true transformation is never about performance. It's about commitment. This hour teaches you the discipline of self-leadership. No cheering crowds. No instant rewards. Just you, your effort, and the awareness that this is your responsibility. No one will hand you your future. No one can give you your purpose. You must earn it, one choice at a time. And it begins by showing up when your feelings tell you to quit. Emotions are temporary, but your actions echo. They leave fingerprints on your future. They shape the kind of person you become. And if you can lead yourself through 1 hour of focused, deliberate work, you can lead yourself through anything. It's not about motivation. It's not about how you feel. It's about training your identity. Every day you practice this hour, you're casting a vote for the person you want to be. Strong, focused, unshakable. You're replacing chaos with clarity, doubt with movement, fear with focus. You're proving that discipline is not punishment. It's liberation. It frees you from regret, from delay, from that sinking feeling of knowing you could have done more. This is how you build integrity with yourself. You say what you mean, you follow through. You do what matters, even when it's uncomfortable, especially then. And when you repeat this hour enough times, it stops feeling optional. It becomes part of you, like breathing, like walking. It becomes the place you return to every day to remember your strength. The storm of distraction will always rage around you. Life will always give you reasons to postpone your growth. But you know better now. You've felt what it means to take control, to stand in your own power, to not wait for circumstances to change, but to change within them. This 1 hour is your sanctuary, your proving ground, your reset button. It reminds you that greatness isn't given, it's claimed. That peace doesn't come from doing less, but from doing what matters. And every time you invest in that hour, you reinforce that you're not chasing a fantasy. You're building a life, one grounded in effort, one defined by ownership, one that reflects who you truly are, not who the world expects you to be. Keep going. You've already started becoming the person you were meant to be. There's a moment when the excuses start to sound like noise, when the reasons for not starting lose their grip and you see them for what they are, delays in disguise. You begin to realize that no one is coming to rescue you from the weight of your own unrealized potential. No voice will speak louder than the one you choose to listen to. And in that hour you dedicate each day, you are turning up the volume on the voice that says, I can. You're rewiring the thoughts that once kept you paralyzed. You're replacing hesitation with hunger. You're letting go of who you've been to step into who you were always meant to be. Change doesn't wait for comfort. It meets you in discomfort. It asks for your attention, your consistency, your belief, especially when belief feels like the hardest thing to hold. That hour becomes your training ground, not just for skills but for character. It's where you meet resistance and decide not to back down. Where you feel tired, but choose to finish. Where you are tempted to give less, but choose to give your best. That's not just work. That's transformation. That's self-respect. That's how you build the kind of strength no one can take from you. You stop negotiating with your dreams. You stop watering them down to fit someone else's expectations. You stop playing small to make others comfortable. That hour teaches you that you don't need permission to grow. You don't need to justify your effort to anyone. What you're building isn't for applause. It's for alignment. The deeper you go into that 1 hour, the more you uncover who you really are, underneath all the fear, the noise, the distractions. You begin to understand that success is not about luck. It's about structure. It's about showing up when you'd rather disappear. It's about being your own reason to keep going, even when it's hard. You are no longer chasing perfection. You are choosing progress. And progress is earned by the hour. That's the currency of change. Repetition. When your mind tells you you're too late, that it's not working, that you're wasting time, you remember. The old version of you would have quit. But you didn't, and that is everything. That's how you win. Not in sudden breakthroughs, but in the daily decision to keep going. No matter how small the step, no matter how heavy the doubt. That hour is not just about what you do, it's about what you're becoming. A person who honors their time, who guards their energy, who leads themselves. You're no longer asking if it's possible. You're proving that it is. Every rep, every page, every breath of focus you give to that hour is stacking proof. You are not the same. You are rising. And 1 hour at a time, you are turning your life into something unshakable. Relentless. Yours.